It's a story from Reddit, but I have realised I love my best friend of 25 years. He loved me the way I was. Look at that. Okay. Hi, I'm Amari Love. In this space, I share meditations and nervous system healing to support anxiety relief, better sleep, emotional healing, and deep inner transformation via the mind-body connection. So thank you for being here. It means a lot. I'm going to read to you a story. It's an emotional story, and it's designed to help you gently release emotions that may be stored in your system. This is part of a way to regulate your nervous system, rewire your brain, and gently start to release anything that might be driving symptoms according to the theories of mind-body connection. So, get comfortable as best you can. Perhaps you'd like to lie down or sit somewhere comfortably. And for this one, you may want a box of tissues. I have a box of tissues. When I heard this story, I was very moved, and that's why it occurred to me that it would be good to share it. This story might trigger emotions of grief, but it might also bring up other emotions. So if it's not the right time, you might want to pause this video, and you can check in the description below. I'm linking to restorative meditations. I also have read other books on this channel that are not triggering emotions. They're for helping you understand the mind-body connection. So I'll link to those as well in the description, the series of readings I know. Okay, so I'm going to read to you from my trusty iPad. It's a story, I would say it's a love story, and it's quite intense. So if you find at any time as we're going through that things are coming up for you, whether it's sensations that are uncomfortable, you can hit pause. But my recommendation to people that I'm working with who are on a healing journey is to try to connect to emotions. We actually want to release gently some tears of sadness, or to feel some sensations of anger or any other emotions that may be repressed in your system. One of the hardest things to do on a recovery journey is to connect with emotions that we don't know are there. Again, I would say we don't want to do that a lot. So if you've already had a very difficult day, or there have been tears today, we don't want you to overload your system. So switch to soothing practices. I have soothing somatic practices here on this channel as well. Okay. If this content is supporting you, you're very welcome to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hitting the bell to turn on notifications will also make sure you don't miss out on any future videos and practices that I share. Thank you for being here. Back to the video. It's a true story. Someone shared it on Reddit on a thread called Off My Chest, where people just have to get things off their chest, and sometimes they want advice. So settle in. I am battling cancer. I am gay, but I have realised I love my best friend of 25 years, a man. I need to vent all my thoughts, and I'm looking for advice on whether to tell him or not. That was just the title. What a great title. It tells us kind of the whole story. Okay, so it's intense. I want to read it to you without me crying as well, so that you can get the story. Okay. I already cried a lot the first time I heard this story. This is going to be a long post because I'm emotionally flooded and a rambler. I need to get it off my chest. My dearest friend in the world is a man named James. Not real name. All names and nicknames are altered in this story. I would try to describe how great he is, but it's honestly easier to just tell you the story. James and I grew up in the same town, a conservative Christian town in nowhere, USA. The first time I met him was on the playground at school. He saw me sitting alone under a tree and came over to ask me if I wanted to play. I said no, but he noticed I was reading a book about space, the solar system to be more precise. So he sat down next to me and asked me which planet I thought would be the coolest to visit. We ended up talking for the rest of recess about what we thought the other planets might be like. And when we went back to class, he introduced me to his friends as my new friend. We were inseparable from that point on. It was one of those things where the entire town, our parents included, had us married off by age 8 or something. We didn't understand at the time, of course, but I would go on family trips with his family, stay over at his place, and vice versa, through most of elementary school. Get in trouble for talking during class every day, though not really, because all the teachers loved him. This dude can charm his way out of anything. It's unreal. We were best friends. When we finally reached the awkward teenage years and dating became a thing, he asked me to the first school dance, and I said yes. We sort of started dating by default. I don't think we ever talked about it explicitly, but I just started calling him my boyfriend to other people, and we went with that. Very little changed about our relationship. We still basically just did all of the same stuff we used to do before, except our parents got stricter about the sleepovers, and there was more hand-holding and cuddling. Kissing and stuff was always difficult for me, and I didn't know why. But he never pushed me on it. Not even once. The 2 times we tried, he was able to tell very quickly that I was uncomfortable, and he shut down the whole interaction by messing up my hair playfully and saying, "Enough of that. How about we just watch a movie?" I just assumed one day I would get it. Well, I didn't. Sometime around 15 years old, I started to realize the problem. I wasn't sexually attracted to men. This was a very trying time for me. Given the kind of environment I grew up in, this was not acceptable. My parents were extremely religious and extremely anti-LGBT. After about 8 months of identity crisis over this, I decided to muster up the courage to tell James before anyone else. I didn't know what to expect. I was terrified. I went over to his house, trembling. He had done what he always did. He made my favourite snacks and got the controllers and my favourite game, Diddy Kong Racing, ready to go. He opened the door and gave me a hug, and I came in. I was so scared. We sat down and he looked at me for a second before putting his hand on mine and asking me what was wrong. So I tried to tell him, and I got halfway through the sentence, struggling to actually say I'm gay, before he just interrupted me and said, "You're gay." "Yes, I know. Is there anything else?" Followed by that goofy smile I love so much. I just froze in place. I asked him if he was mad at me, and he just laughed. And he told me he loved me the way I was. Look at that. I'm going. I have to get through this. He told me he loved me the way I was. And this was the way I was. I just started crying and I jumped into his arms. It felt like 10 minutes at least that I cried and cried before he finally interrupted me in characteristic fashion, remarking, "However, I will be mad if you let the pizza rolls I made get cold. So how about we stop crying and start eating?" We stayed best friends after that. We never actually had a breakup, but we did. We never actually had a breakup talk, but we did start to date other people. We talked or hung out almost every day until we graduated, and he went away to a big name college. The night before he left, he came and picked me up, and we drove around town and hit all our favourite spots. He drove me back home at 3 a.m. or something in the rain, and I took his hand during the drive home and I fell asleep on his shoulder. I remember wondering then for a moment if I should just marry him anyway. But he was going away to college and I'm not attracted to men, so it probably couldn't work, no matter how I felt about him otherwise. He promised to stay in touch, but I didn't know if that would really happen. Well, it did. Obviously, it wasn't like before, but he made sure to call me every week just to check up on me and see how things were going. I went to college close to home. We'd talk about how hard college was, whoever we were dating at the time, and whatever drama was going on. During his junior year, my parents found out that I was gay. They did not react well, and I was basically kicked out of my home to save me. My dad going on about me needing Jesus 40 days in the desert like a lunatic. My parents are good people, so this didn't last long. And they have more than made it up to me since and worked hard to unlearn their bad programming. But that was an awful time. I did what I always do, and I called James. He talked to me for about an hour, and then he got his mum to drive up to get me so I could stay in his old bedroom. Then he flew home the next day, pretty much just to cheer me up and make sure I was all right. Vintage driving around in circles, singing like idiots, and 2 a.m. junk food runs did the trick. I later found out from my mum that he had also gone and confronted my parents and stood up for me and told them they should be ashamed of themselves. And if they were willing to lose their daughter over this, they were unfit parents and not the second family I thought you were. My parents worship him, so this was effective, and my mum still tells the story to this day. Once again, I remember wondering at the time, will I ever know anyone else in my life who would do this for me? But he was heading off back to college, and he was still a man, so I didn't do anything. Years went by. He got married. I got a long-term girlfriend. We stayed close the entire time. We saw each other a lot less, but it was still great every time he visited, and we had frequent texts and calls. I looked forward to his visits all year. And then tragedy struck. His wife divorced him. I never liked her, but he did. I think she used him for a green card and he was too sweet to notice, but that's neither here or there. He came back home, so I saw him a lot more. Obviously, he was crushed, but we got through it together. And then I got the diagnosis. At age 27, cancer. There's nothing I can say that describes the feeling, so I'm not even going to try. Decent chance of survival, but I had to start treatment right away. This experience has changed me and my outlook on life more than anything else that's ever happened to me. At first, everyone was there for me. I was getting visitors daily, friends, family, everyone. But as the weeks turned into months, it all stopped. Most people, even my friends, started coming once a week, then once a month, then not at all. When things were looking bad around the 7th or 8th month mark, my girlfriend broke up with me claiming she loved me, but she couldn't handle watching this. Almost 2 years in now, and there's only 5 people who are still here. My mum, my dad, my sister, my BFF, Amanda, and James. I almost can't talk about it without crying, but James is here every effing day. Every day. For hours. He may have missed 20 days in almost 2 years due to work-related travel, and even then he calls me. He comes in and he asks how his amumu is, which is what he calls me since we were kids because I like cows, and those were my initials. He asks how his amumu is doing and he listens. He brings my favourite snacks and treats when I can have them. He brings board games we liked to play, old video games on handheld so we can play. He sings to me and he shows me pictures of places he's been to that I'd like to go. And he talks about taking me once I get better. He sits there and holds my hand in silence so I won't be alone until the doctors tell him it's time to go. Then he does it again the next day. I've never seen him cry or show any sadness. If I even casually say something like, if I get better, he'll immediately interject, when you get better. He just won't give up on me. The only other person who is there like this is my mum. Even my dad and sister and Amanda, who have also shown up in big ways, are not this consistent. I could write a whole post about how this experience has changed my relationship with my mum as well. She's proven to me that no matter what happened in the past and what we may have clashed over, she loves me like no one else, except maybe James. My mum is the #1 all-time James fangirl. She has been attempting to get me to marry him since I was 7 years old. A long time ago, she stopped that. But about 3 months ago, she made probably her first comment of that kind in around 7 years. I guess there are a few things she said. The first was, pay attention to the people who are still here now. They're the people who always will be. They're the people who love you and not just what you can do for them. Which sort of set me off on the whole months-long train of thought about James that led to this post. Amanda and my sister also make a lot of comments about James. Both like him, and Amanda told me a few visits ago that she thinks I love him. And one reason none of my other relationships worked is that the other person can always tell they're number 2, everywhere except the bedroom. Then, about a month ago, my mum was a little more direct. After James left one evening, she told me, "Baby, in all my years on this earth, I've never seen anyone love anybody like that boy loves you. I know you don't like it when I talk about it, but trust me, if you let him go again, you are going to regret it forever. I don't know what has changed, but this time when she said that, I just knew she was right. Every relationship I've ever been in has had some problem or thing that has to be worked on. Most of them have had several. The only thing missing here is that I don't feel a strong urge to rip his clothes off, like I have with some, but honestly, not with all, or even with most of the women that I've been with. But even there, it's different. In general, I find the idea of being with a man disgusting, but I don't find it disgusting with him. I like being touched by him and being close to him. He is so gentle. Lately, I even find myself fixating on his lips and daydreaming about kissing him. I'm not that sexual of a person, and I think overall, of the people I've known in my life, I would be happier with him than with anyone else, and it isn't even close. Now, the big problem is the cancer. Honestly, I'm not really on the fence about this anymore. If I survive, I want to be with him. I am getting better, and the doctors are hopeful, but I'm not sure if I should tell him now or not. I want to tell him so bad. I want him to know how much I love him. Lovers have come and gone for both of us. But every time I close my eyes and think about times I've felt loved, truly understood and truly accepted, it's always his smiling face I see. When I think about times I've felt warm and safe, it's his arms I feel wrapping around me like a warm blanket just my size. His voice I hear saying, "Don't worry, Amumu, it'll be all right." Or cracking some silly joke. I want him to know that I want him with me, by my side, forever. There's nowhere I'd rather be than wherever he is, doing absolutely effing anything. Okay. This that we're doing today is we are triggering ourselves on purpose to access some emotions. In general, I wouldn't recommend that you trigger yourself. So I would only do this once or twice a week, depending on your capacity for feeling deep emotions, and that you make sure to always follow up. If you're very triggered, that you follow up with something that will lift you back into a grounded, regulated state. I have a lot of practices that I share with you to help you do that, whether it's an EFT practice, where we do some tapping together, or a somatic healing practice where we're using the hands in some way or other. I have many of these that I share on this channel, so please do subscribe if you would like help with regulating your nervous system and any emotional healing or physical healing that you're doing at this time. I want him to know that I want him with me, by my side, forever. There is nowhere I would rather be than wherever he is, doing absolutely effing anything. Cuddling up on the couch, making jokes about stupid movies, playing our favourite video games, talking about life until 2 a.m, driving around in circles while he sings boy band songs like a goofball. I don't care, as long as he's there too. I want him to know that if I survive this, we will be together. That's what I want. That's all I want. He is all I want. But I am scared to tell him because I don't know what's going to happen. If I don't make it, would it be kinder to just keep this to myself? If you were him and you were in his position, would you want me to tell you how I feel? So that's the end of the post, and there are comments from people reading it, giving advice and suggestions. So I'm going to read you a few of the comments. And just so you don't have to wait with bated breath, there is an update after that that tells us what happens. So we are going to get to know what she decides, and if she tells him or if she doesn't tell him, and what happens. Tea. I've been a tea drinker all my life, drinking black tea with milk because English, what can you do? And I've just discovered chai, and I'm in love with it. It's got all cinnamon flavours, and you can put coconut milk in it, and I'm like, you guys probably knew about this, but I'm new at this late age. I've learned about chai, and I'm like so happy about it. Okay, the top comment, which is wonderful, says, it's funny, your sexuality can be mostly women and James. It can be whatever you need it to be. I saw a nice post from a woman who came to realise after many years of marriage to her male best friend that she was almost certainly a lesbian and wasn't attracted to men, except for her husband, whom she continued to adore. Good luck in your romantic endeavours, and you are going to beat that cancer. Okay, let's see what other comments we have. Okay, tell him, send him this post, let him see the same beautiful journey I just read. Don't wait. You, more than many, realise you never know what will happen. So don't waste any more of your time together being apart. Kiss that amazing man and tell him you're in love with him. Oh, that's very beautiful. Okay, another one. Everyone needs a James. He has been with you through everything, and he has always had your back. Speak your mind and tell him everything. I wish you all the best. And the poster, the original poster, says, yes, I want to tell him. I'm just worried that if I tell him and then things take a turn for the worse again, what will I have done to him? And that person says, you will have made him the happiest man in town. It's like they're arguing. Everyone in the comments is arguing for her to live this love story. Okay. Another commenter says, tell him, I've seen some comments where you say you're worried if things go south, what will that do to him? What I'm about to say is with pure kindness and care. Think of what it would do to him to only find out after. You both deserve to be happy, whether it's for 1 year or 50. It doesn't matter. You both deserve it. And the original poster said, I think this comment really hit me for some reason. Thank you. I'm going to tell him when he visits me tomorrow. Okay, so let's find out what happens, because it's I'm on tenterhooks. Okay, here we go. Update. I'm battling cancer. I'm gay. But I have realised I love my best friend of 25 years, a man. I told him everything, and it was the best day of my life. Thank you all. If you want the original story, it has a similar title. Here is my update. So tonight, I told James. I told him everything. Gosh, I just wish I could relive this night over and over again. I have never been so happy. He came into my room this evening, like he always does. He greeted me. Hello, how's my moo-moo doing today? I told him I was doing well. He told me I looked beautiful, which is not true. but it still felt so sincere. Then he started unpacking the stuff he brought me today. I asked him to stop and to come and sit with me because I wanted to talk to him. He nodded and he came and sat down next to me. "What's up?" he asked. It took me a bit to gather myself. I kept getting distracted by his eyes. How he looks at me sometimes, I just don't know how to describe it. I told him, "I love you." And he just kind of laughed and touched my hand casually before responding, "Oh, I know that. I love you too." In retrospect, this wasn't the best way to start, I guess, since we've said that enough with a different understanding that he didn't get what was happening. He started to get up again to unpack the snacks, and I grabbed his arm and asked him to let me finish. He looked confused, but he nodded and sat back down. And then I did it. I told him everything. I told him about all the times in the past I'd thought about just marrying him despite my sexuality. I told him about my favourite memories of him and how they make me feel. I told him he'd always been my best friend and the person I trusted the most. I told him I made a mistake and I should have chosen him. I then basically devolved into reading the last paragraph of my first post. "He's the face I see when I think about feeling loved, the embrace I feel when I think about being safe. It doesn't matter what we do, if we're together, I am happy, and he's the only thing I want for the rest of my life." He basically froze. He said nothing. He just looked at me as I spilled everything. I'm not sure he even blinked. When I finished and I looked up at him, he was sitting there like a statue with his mouth slightly open, still enough it was like he forgot to breathe. James always knows what to say, so this was a little unnerving to me. I started to ask him if everything was all right, but before I could finish, his expression broke. He exhaled into a weak but incredibly tender, quivering smile, and he just reached out and pulled me into a hug. I buried my head in his chest and his arms just wrapped around me. I just melted into him. He was so gentle. It felt so easy. It felt so right. Then he started crying, and then I started crying. He's been coming here through 2 years of cancer treatment, and I've never seen him cry until now. He held me for a while, but however long it wasn't long enough. He still hadn't actually said a single word since I finished talking, but I guess he didn't really need to. Then he finally answered my question with, "Now it is." When he finally pulled away, his face was red from crying, but he just looked so happy. He looked at me for a bit. It was kind of cute because he had a little trouble maintaining eye contact, which he usually doesn't. He was like a little boy again. Then he finally looked right at me and he just said, "You are the only thing I have ever wanted." Then I started crying again, and he started crying again, and he pulled me to him and he held me again. I wish it never ended. A little bit later, once we exhausted our crying capacity, I showed him the post. He made a few jokes about wanting to meet this James guy and about how he had better go and thank my mum for her 20 years of being a wing woman. Then after he finished reading it, he kissed me It felt easy, not scary at all, and just right. He asked me if it lived up to my daydreams, and I chuckled and I said, yes. Then he said, I'm not so sure myself. I think I need more data. And he kissed me again. He is so ridiculous, but this was smooth. Then after that we started talking, and I guess he told me everything too. He said he'd loved me since we were little kids. He told me he still has every drawing, every letter, every craft I ever made for him in a safe that he took with him to college. And he has taken with him everywhere he has ever lived. We talked about the day I came out as gay to him and how he'd figured it out earlier. But he struggled to accept it for months in secret because he had lived his entire life up to that point, assuming we would be a family and wanting nothing else. He told me he thought about our last night before college all the time, and he kept hoping that entire night I would say something before he left, because then he would have transferred colleges to stay with me. He told me he actually took a very long way home, just to prolong the time when we were holding hands and that I was sleeping on his shoulder, and that it was to this day his favourite memory. Then he looked at me with those piercing green eyes and he said, for me, there has never been anyone else. He loved once, me, and then he struggled through a bunch of rebounds, and even though he had learned to bury it and move on with life, and he was happy in our friendship, his heart had only ever belonged to me. Honestly, I guess I should have known this. My dad told me he was sure this was true before, but I didn't listen. But I was flustered and deeply moved. I joked that he should enter the Olympics as a torch carrier, and he said they'd never have a chance against me. I'm the greatest there ever was. Aww. We sat and talked and reminisced some more, mostly about when we were kids. I found out some things I never knew because he avoided telling me how romantic some things were for him after I came out, but I also kind of realised. I think they felt romantic to me too. Then he sang me some of our songs. His voice is so beautiful. We had another embrace and another kiss. Both still felt divine. I can't wait to have my hair back again so that he can pet it like he used to when we were kids. Then I brought up the sex question, and oh my God, it was the cutest shit ever. I barely got to say anything before he started tripping over himself like, look, I don't even care. I don't need that. I just want to wake up with you every day. Which was sweet, but then I told him that even though I didn't know how that would go, and I might not be able to, I wanted to try with him anyway when I got better. And oh my God, he turned tomato red and he could barely look at me. Literally could not even manage to form a sentence in response. Just mumbled incoherently before managing to get out, okay, if you're sure. This man has been married and had 6 girlfriends, but he completely just falls all over himself at the thought. God, it was adorable. This is the only thing I'm still a little worried about, but I do want to try. I mean, I liked the kissing, which I thought was completely impossible. And I know that if it doesn't turn out well, it won't ruin anything and we'll still be together and we'll just figure something out for that one need. Then we talked about the cancer. He is so sure I'm going to make it. It's so touching. It took a little while to get him to take the other possibility seriously. When I finally did, and I told him that's the reason I didn't tell him sooner, he held my hand and he told me that if that happens, he'd be okay, because he'll always know that he was one of the lucky ones, because he was mine. Okay, it's hard to read. Okay. Jesus effing Christ. I almost lost it. Then he said, if we don't have that much time left, we better make sure every minute counts. I said, well, it's pretty hard to do in a hospital. And he replied, what do you mean? We're both here, and that makes this the best place on earth. Dear God, what did I do to deserve this man? I teared up again, and he held me one last time. Then the doctors came in. He kissed me goodnight. We both said, I love you, but it felt so different. It's never felt so good to say or hear those words. Then he smiled at me and left. I was so excited. The first thing I did was call Mum, and she was just ecstatic. I think she might be happier than me, which is saying something. As soon as I told her what happened and that James are together, she just started crying and talking about what a good boy he is and how she just knew this would happen and that she can rest easy now because she knows I will always be loved and taken care of. Plenty of her destiny talk, which usually gets on my nerves, but honestly, I was so happy tonight. F it, I'm on board. Maybe it was destiny. I guess sometimes Mum really does know best. I feel like a teenager again. I never thought I'd feel this way again in my life. I never even imagined that if I did, it would be for a man. God, I love him so much. Now I can't understand what I was ever worried about or why I didn't do this years ago. Thank you so much to everyone who read my story and helped give me the perspective and the courage I needed to finally do what I should have done years ago. Now, as long as my health cooperates, I'll be one of the lucky ones too, because I am his. Okay. That is a very beautiful love story. Okay, well done. I'd like you to reward yourself for doing this work today. A reward might be cuddling up in a soft blanket, or watching some comedy, or listening to some soothing music. I have a playlist for you, which I will link to below. Or perhaps restoring some energy to yourself now using one of my recovery meditations that's designed to almost put petrol back in the tank of the car. Everything that you do maybe spends some energy, so you want to put back energy, and I have designed meditations to help you do just that. I want to thank you for being here today. It's amazing. Take good care of yourself. This space is here to support you with practical tools, clear guidance, and a steady reminder that you are not broken. You can find brain retraining tools, nervous system support, and free healing resources at amarilove.com. If this video has helped you in any way, please leave a like, and you can click on the screen now to see another video or a playlist to help with your healing journey. Take good care of yourself now.